Gambling Wizards, Conversations with the World's Greatest Gamblers, is a testament to the many ways you can succeed at gambling. The goal of the show is that you'll be a more knowledgeable gambler tomorrow than you were yesterday. And now, here are Bob and Richard.
Good morning. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Smith. We have two guests this morning. From now until a quarter past the hour, we'll be talking to Jeffrey Compton, publisher of CDC Gaming Reports, about recent changes to the industry that affect players. For the following half hour, we'll be talking to bookmaker Jimmy Vaccaro about the upcoming football season. Our first segment with Jeffrey, his job is the publisher of CDC Gaming Reports, which requires him to stay abreast of casino news around the country and to some extent around the world. Today we're focusing on recent changes in Las Vegas and how it affects players. Jeffrey Compton, welcome to Gambling with an Edge.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off with talking about SLS. This is a casino that opened up almost a year ago where the Sahara used to be, and it's hemorrhaging money. First quarter of this year set them back $35 million, while the second quarter losses set them back another $50 million or so. Their president, Scott Krieger, who presided over the Revel bankruptcy case in Atlantic City before he came to the SLS, he keeps putting a positive spin on what's coming down the line. But unless they can turn things around, this property will go belly up too. Jeffrey Compton, what does your crystal ball tell you is going to happen to the SLS?
I don't see how the SLS is going to make it, to be honest. It is extremely geographically challenged. And it was the dream of somebody whose last name was Nazarian. And unfortunately, he was not upfront with the Gaming Commission on his background, so he had to leave active management, and I believe he sold his interest in the place, and he also sold his home in Summerlin, I read last week. So, and he was the inspiration and that had the plans to make the property different. I was there yesterday, and it was very quiet, to put it politely, and I don't see how the other disadvantages they have is that they are a single entity casino company. In other words, they don't have a bunch of Harrah's and Caesars properties across the United States. They don't have other properties on the Strip to send them business.
Plus, they can't get any walk-in business.
They can't get any walk-in business.
Was the Riviera, and that's gone now. I mean, although they are building that kitty corner, they're building that, what is that, new Asian-themed Lucky Dragon or something?
Yes, but that's going to be another couple of years before it's up and running.
It's a shame because it's really kind of a beautiful casino.
It is. I did not see, when you walk into a place, especially a place in that situation, the message on the floor has to say why you want to play there. And I don't mean great blackjack rules or great schedules on video poker, of which they have neither. But there's just no feeling there's no sense of why do I want to play here?
No, I get the feeling when I walk in there, this is a place that my son and his girlfriend would like. It's about the day club at the pool, and the nightclubs, and but it's not about gambling, it doesn't seem to me.
And but the people they are getting, I assume, are either a small crowd who are turned on by the facilities you've mentioned, or conventioneers. And I don't know how good they are at getting names or collecting names on conventioneers. I was rather it's just not fun. And it's not a fun atmosphere. And this was Sunday morning, and usually you have a somewhat fun atmosphere in a casino. So,
my thought on this is that they are too far away from other casinos on the Strip to be offering Strip rules on their games. And so if they're going to attract casinos, they need to compete with the local casinos, which have much looser games in both table games and video poker.
I would agree with you if they're going to try to go after the local business, that they have to offer, for example, their slot club gives you 1 point for every dollar played on slots, but you have to bet $3 on video poker to get a point. And
well, that's not a problem. That's not a problem if they have good video poker.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that their video poker schedules, at least the ones I saw, look like the same thing offered at my car wash. And
well, they're better than that, but let's not. All right, we only have relatively few minutes for you to today, Jeffrey. Let's switch to the Downtown Grand, which is located where the Lady Luck used to be, and it's may or may not be looking for a buyer. It seems like maybe it is. What do you know about this, Jeffrey?
Well, the only source that said that it was for sale was a local blog, which has a good reputation. And reading the blog, one got the idea that there was solid insider information that was basing this. This wasn't just crystal ball for the Inquirer. The SLS and the Grand have a lot in common. The Grand is also geographically challenged. It's a bit of a walk from downtown, and unlike the El Cortez, the audience is not drifting. There isn't more business drifting that way. There is more people walking down, toward the El Cortez these days. Both are. It's another single property entity, and it's another single property entity that is by somebody who is brand new to the business. And it's also considerably more expensive than the previous occupant and has a much different philosophy than the previous occupant. If you walk in there, you would believe the sale rumors. For example, there is no game right now over $2. Okay? All their high roller area has been removed. There's not a lot of, the number of machines on the floor, considering it's a casino and not, a bar, but I would say the number of casino machines on their floor is very few. So the casino was never that big to begin with. So yes, I believe that it's the property's for sale, and my guess is it would be a good deal to sell it.
I'm wondering about downtown in general. They seem to be in trouble. The Las Vegas club just sold. The Union Plaza sold recently, right? They changed ownership.
Downtown had the biggest advance last month.
Yeah, it seems like restaurants and stuff is happening a lot down there. Life is Beautiful is coming.
The Las Vegas club, in my opinion, was done in 2002 when Max Esper died. And nobody has really cared about or been inspired by the property since then. I worked there as a consultant, and right before it was sold. And I have never seen such infighting in my life in a situation. And Jackie, who was not part of the infighting, but Jackie's team was mainly concerned with the Union, with the Plaza at the time, and of course the El Cortez, which they still manage. And it was sort of like a stepchild. And they put an addition on that never worked, and a tower, more rooms that never worked. And from what I heard, they weren't built all that well. So I don't, the people who bought it are doing the right thing. They're going to take their time and decide what they're going to do. They're not running in with a plan. Okay, it's on a good corner.
Yeah, it's a good location.
It's a good location. Also, remember, the best success at elevating a property downtown to a new level, okay, the best success was the Golden Nugget. And that was done
35 years ago
by a genius, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I think people who operate down there have to know the limitations of the business, and so we'll see what happens with the Grand.
Do you see the Derek and Greg Stevens, who currently own the D and have done some good things there?
Have done some good things.
From the Fitz, do you see them as possible geniuses who can restore the Las Vegas Club?
I like the attitude of, we bought it, we're going to wait and see what happens. Okay, that's a sign of a good manager or a good owner or a good planner, is holding off on decisions until you absolutely have to and get as much information as possible before proceeding. They've seen that the property has been a failure, so they have to, for the last several years, and they have to figure out why. And they're not running in there with preconditions, even though they own the property across the street and they own the property down the street. So they're much more informed than some Johnny-come-lately. But like I said, I was impressed by when I read that we don't know what we're going to do. We're going to gather a lot of information, and then we'll make a decision.
You know, you have a lot of money when you can afford to buy a casino and just put it on hold.
They did not buy a casino. Okay? That whole transaction did not have to be approved by gaming, because that whole transaction did not have to be approved by gaming because they didn't buy the gaming assets.
Oh,
they did not buy the machines. They did not buy the tables. Okay, they bought the property.
Okay, but they won't have any trouble getting licensed.
Of course they won't have any trouble. They're already licensed.
Right.
But what I'm saying is they did not, I don't mean to be picky, but they didn't buy a casino.
Right.
They bought a property.
Right.
Okay.
But they still have a lot of money if they can, you know.
Yeah. When they open a casino, it will have to be approved by gaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have Jimmy on the line yet, Bob. So I think we were going to also talk about the smoking in New Orleans.
Yeah, in generally speaking, New Orleans has no smoking policy. Casinos in general hate this, simply because gamblers and smokers and drinkers are all compulsive people, as a general rule. And when you have one of those vices, you have many. So the casinos hate the idea of no smoking because they think the players will stay away. The first month they did it, the casino actually increased its bottom line, although the casino was saying that was an anomaly. This is really bad news for us. Jeffrey, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, first, the New Orleans rule only affected one casino. For example, Boomtown, New Orleans, is not technically in the city limits. So Boomtown, they can still smoke at, which was one of the objections of Harrah's. You know, if all of Louisiana and Mississippi had gone non-smoking, my guess is, they'd verbally say something. But way deep down, they wouldn't be that objectionable to it. Because casinos spend a huge amount of money trying to clean up after smokers. Okay?
Yeah, I think this is one of those issues like gay marriage where we all know it's coming, it's inevitable, so, just get behind it. I
think they have to have more evidence that there is an audience out there that is avoiding casinos because of smoking. I don't go to it, not me personally, but I meant somebody who says, I don't go to casinos because of the cigarette smoke. Okay?
Well, I think there are a lot of people who say that, but I don't think there are a lot of people who say, I smoke and they won't allow me, so I won't go to the casino. The California card rooms had this issue, right? And they said, this isn't fair. Everybody can smoke in the Indian casinos, but they banned smoking in the card rooms in California. The sky is falling. It'll kill us. Well, they built all these outdoor smoking areas, and their business was just fine.
Which you can do here. In Cleveland, that was a bit of an issue, but for outdoor smoking.
Only part of the year.
Well, actually, they were very clever in California. They built these outdoor areas that actually had louvered roofs. And,
right.
I mean, it's really like you're inside, but...
Oh, yes. No, it was very creative. the history has been when they banned it off of college campuses, you were told the colleges would close. Okay. When they banned it out of New York bars would close. Okay. Usually what happens is there's a dip and then, okay. I would say if the industry doesn't want to be dictated to, what the industry should do is first get as much information on the problem as possible. And Bob went with his, gambling runs with drinking and smoking and ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Many Indian casinos do not permit liquor.
Yeah.
So, and they seem to be doing all right. So, the first thing is, let's get the information. Let's find out what's really going on. Okay, there is many casinos in this country you cannot smoke in, generally in the newer jurisdictions, and they do not. That does not seem to be an overwhelming issue. They had to address it to find a convenient place for these people to smoke, but it is not. Also, remember that smoking is a dying habit. Yeah. Poor pun, but so I think then what happens is, based on that information, make a unified decision, possibly through the AGA or whatever, on here's what we're going to do over the next 3 years to eliminate smoking in casinos. That way, they're operating on their schedule, not what a local government is dictating to them, which is what happened in New Orleans.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have Jimmy on the line now, so we want to thank you, Jeffrey, for coming. And
again, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just likely to put up with Jeffrey the first Tuesday of every month, and this is a good insight to players from somebody who generally publishes from the other side of the casino. So let's talk to Jimmy. Jimmy Vaccaro is the vice president in charge of race and sports marketing at the South Point Hotel and Casino. Today we're going to be talking to Jimmy mainly about betting on football. Jimmy Vaccaro, welcome to Gambling with an Edge.
It's my pleasure, and hopefully we'll be speaking quite a bit this football season.
That is music to my ears.
Okay.
In the NFL this year, they're making two changes to the rules regarding extra points. First, if you want to kick the ball for a 1-point conversion, you're going to have to do it from the 15-yard line rather than the 2-yard line like you did previously. And secondly, if there's a turnover on this play and the defending team can run the ball all the way to the other end zone, they earn 2 points. Now, Jimmy Vaccaro, do you see either or both of these rules affecting the lines on the game?
No, they won't affect the lines because obviously going in, you wouldn't know which team is going to benefit you at the end by going for 2 or naturally kicking what is easily the field goal, although they'll miss a little bit more this year because it's moved back. But as far as like the number itself, there's no way you could feel what's the outcome of the game and who's going to benefit by it with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So we'll put them up, numbers as usual, and naturally, like everything else, especially in sports betting, when you're on this side of the counter, which I am, you watch and you see what happens, and as it progresses, you simply change to what the new rule is. So it's easy on our side. It's harder on the customer side because he's literally guessing on what the outcome of the game is going to be, and will it help him or will it hurt him?
Well, right now in football, the most valuable number is 3. Do you think this will change the value of the 3? And will it change the price in buying, a half point around that at all?
Well, like I'm saying, okay, if you're the consumer, would you walk up to the counter and say, geez, I'd like to lay 2.5, or I'd like to take 3.5, and you would be guessing what that point is going to benefit you at the end of the game. Now, as far as making a number, if we think a number is a solid 3 and it should be opened as a 3-point favorite, we're not going to guess either by making it 2.5 or 3.5. We're going to let the general public push us off of that number, whether it's up or down. So, once again, no changes immediately in the near future, but we'll see what happens. But I would suggest that business as usual. What I do like, though, is that being rewarded for a great defensive play on defense, and if you do pick up the ball or intercept the ball and return it for the 2 points. It's simply just another play where the defense should be awarded if it does something extraordinary, which in a sense it would be, because you're returning the ball some 99 yards. So I'm in favor of that. But the other thing, like I said, it's wait and see. But I honestly think it'll have no effect on the opening line from here on out.
Well, I would think that offhand teams like the Seahawks, who have a Marshawn Lynch, who's called the Beast for some reason, or maybe the Eagles, who, if they decide to keep Tim Tebow, who would be extra good at 2-point conversions, they would seem to have a small advantage with this new rule. Am I imagining this? Or there are other teams with good backs too, but some aren't particularly good at a 2-yard play?
Well, I don't think you're imagining anything, because, like I said, nothing is concrete, nothing is absolute. I've been around this racket my entire life, and you would be stubborn if you wouldn't change, if you saw things coming, wave after wave. But in this case, like I said, it's the same similar situation. So you're telling me, because let's say it's Seattle or the Philadelphia Eagles, would you say, listen, guys, we're opening this line 3.5 instead of 3 because they have a better chance of making a 2-point conversion? Once again, it's a guess. If the Seahawks are winning the game, obviously they should be winning more than losing. You should be in a position where they're not going to need the 2-point conversion to win the football game. So like I said, there's many sides of the issues where people can obviously be pro or con to it, but I don't think you will step out of line if you're waiting for something to make a bet on these games, and we change the number from 3 to 2.5 or 3 to 3.5 on the opening line. Now, during the course of the heated action within an hour before post time, you may see some changes there, but I don't think that. And the other thing, I don't think a team like the Eagles or whomever Tebow is at will be kept on the team just simply for the 2-point conversion. First of all, it's not a guarantee. Second of all, I think it's about 52-48 on teams going for 2 and not making it in the last few years, as opposed to you have a 2-point conversion and that number jumped up to like a 60 or 65% chance of scoring the football there. So again, we'll see what happens, but I don't think much will happen from it.
Okay. Let's go on to a different subject. There's also a rule change about the helpless defender. In the past couple of years, the helpless defender was a receiver who caught the ball, and before he had a chance to take a certain number of steps, if a defender whacked him in the helmet or the certain places, there was a big penalty. This year, the rule's been changed, and so he doesn't have to have the ball. If he was the intended receiver and he gets whacked right after the ball goes by, there's also a penalty. This edge should give the passing game the advantage compared to last year. So I would think this is going to be higher scoring games and better passing yards and those kind of things. Is this, do you concur?
Well, it's like everything else in the NFL. I mean, you can see you don't need that rule to change as far as what we can see on the field. And as like I said, the totals have been adjusted over the past 4 or 5 years, where everything is obviously tended towards teams scoring more points because, first of all, the fans love it. They like to see a 42-37 game, and the old-timers like us is satisfied with 7-3 final. So obviously, with being protective of the quarterback, which they have in the past 10 years, naturally now to obviously protect the receivers more, the helpless receiver, you're going to see more of that, and it does incur more scoring because it's very apparent that you get a long pass, and first of all, you had 3rd and 11 from the 50-yard line. Now all of a sudden you have 1st and 10 from the 17 on a guy that hit somebody maybe as they described as a helpless player. This all goes to the scoring. If you go back, like when I was a kid out here, the opening lines on these totals were anywhere between 37 and 39. We're seeing exhibition football games. Yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now remember, exhibition preseason. The total on the game was 49. So everything is pushed towards the totals. But once again, as I spoke about earlier with the 2-point conversion, we adjust. We're probably 5 or 6 points higher on an average than we were just a short 6 or 7 years ago. So as you see on the field, and there's no secrets because we all see the same thing, we are making the general public, more than anything, pay a higher tariff because, first of all, the rules bend towards the offensive team, and second of all, you're seeing all these spread offenses, you're seeing gimmick and gadget plays, and you see these kids with unbelievable athleticism who make these unbelievable plays to obviously put more points on the board. So once again, we're covered with that, but like I said, the only thing that you look and you wonder is just like, you can't blame the referees a lot on these calls because, hell, these kids are going so quick, so fast. It's not like when I was watching, Taylor, running around right in for the Packers where it's almost like slow motion in comparison to today's thing. But we will keep our eye on it, and as I just said a little earlier, the progression of totals in the past 10 years has simply gone up and up and up. And until we see a slowdown or we reach the point where we get nothing but underbets, we'll go the other way. But don't look for that anytime soon.
Okay. There's 40 or so NFL players who may or may not be suspended at the start of the season. Most of them we know for sure. But there are players like Tom Brady, who may or may not play the first game, depending. As we go on the air, it's not a decided issue yet. By the time you listen to it, it might be decided. Now, the Patriots and Steelers are the opening game of the season. How much of a difference line-wise will it make if Tom Brady is allowed to play or is not allowed to play?
Well, what you saw earlier this summer when it was decided that Goodell would say you have a 4-game suspension, then having these lines up earlier and earlier, especially during the summer months of the first week of the season, people like to have a ticket in their pocket, even if they're from out of state, and have that first week's bet in their pocket. When the announcement was made, the Pittsburgh Steelers were a 6-point underdog right before the announcement. When the announcement was made, we all adjusted the line to maybe a pick'em game or maybe even Pittsburgh a 1-point favorite, which would mean there are only a few quarterbacks in the league who move the meter that much. A Brady would move it 6 points naturally. A Manning would move it, and then naturally Rodgers. Other than that, there's not that many. But because it's Bill Belichick and because they had all summer to adjust, the number went to 2.5. The Patriots are still the favorite, but we did adjust it 6 points. If they decide tonight that Brady will play, you will see the Patriots go back to at least a 6.5 point favorite. And if he doesn't play, if he's ruled out completely, you'll see the number right about where it is, and the public will push it one way or the other. So that one was an easy one because we had 3 months to adjust. When you get in these little bit of quandaries, let's say if Rodgers gets hurt the first game, well, the next game is only 6 days away, so that adjustment is made quickly and it's more severe as opposed to like letting Belichick have 3 months to decide how the hell he's going to defend his team against the Steelers without Tom Brady. So a guessing game, but on our standpoint, it's not that hard. There's a certain quarterbacks who mean a certain amount of points, and the 3 that I mentioned are the ones that move the needle the most.
Okay. Same kind of question, but on defensive players. Cam Chancellor, Seahawk, defensive back, currently holding out for more money. Now, their defense is expected to be pretty good, whether Chancellor plays or not, but we think it'll be better if he does play. How much would that affect the line, whether or not Chancellor's in there?
0. It doesn't mean anything as far as the number is concerned. The defensive people, the only defensive guy that made the number move a point and a half in the past 20 years, if he played or didn't play, was obviously the guy from the Giants, Lionel, or what's his name? the All-American, the Hall of Famer from the Giants. His name is Casey right now. But anyway, he was the only one. Lawrence Taylor. He was the only one who we would adjust the line if a defensive player were out of the game. It's getting to the point where it's quarterback driven. Case in point, Jordy Nelson got hurt last week, and everybody said, oh, man, Jordy Nelson's out. The Packers, everybody's going to bet on the other side. Now, well, that line is 6.5, didn't budge one bit. Now, it looks like Cobb might be hurt also. That line hasn't budged one bit. It's the only one that moves the needle are the quarterbacks. And like I said, the defensive guy, for as good as these guys are, if you take one out of the lineup, and naturally it doesn't make that much difference. What makes a difference to the value players is, let's say that two offensive linemen are hurt and they can't play the following week, your first starters, and the guys that protect people like Rodgers. You might see a smidgen move on that because we know Rodgers needs all the protection that he can have, and so do all the top-flight quarterbacks. There's a more of an infection on the total there as opposed to like one defensive player.
Wow, that's interesting. I wouldn't have suspected that.
All right. Let's change gears a little bit.
Okay.
New Jersey, they're trying to offer legal sports betting. So far, the court rulings have been against this, but it's likely going to be appealed eventually to the United States Supreme Court. What does your crystal ball say how this is going to play out?
It's going to be bad for the people who've been voting for legalized sports wagering across the country for the past 30 years, and you can put me in that group. I surely don't see nothing wrong with it, but the 800-pound gorilla is the NFL. There were times when Delaware thought they were going to be ready to take single-game wagering. They built the sports books. They had everybody in motion. They had everything that they were going to do in motion. And a week before they were to open, the NFL came in, had an injunction, got it stopped, went to I think a third circuit court judge in Philadelphia. He was ruled 2-1 against. Bang, that was about 7 years ago. It's a tough fight, and I would consider if it doesn't happen in this cycle, we're never going to see it happen. As I said, Goodell is strong. The NFL is a very, very powerful organization. If you watched all the football games yesterday, like I did on television, every other commercial was about DraftKings or whatever. But they just view it as like we shouldn't be taking bets on their game for the integrity of the game. If it doesn't happen this cycle, in other words, the next 12 to 18 months, where there's an absolute push to go to the Supreme Court, I don't think we'll ever see it.
All right. Now, the South Point, you were the first sports book to put up a line as to whether Ohio State would remain unbeaten this year. Now, Are there any other only found at South Point kind of bets that players should be aware of?
Well, we're having fun with the Super Bowl only because the Super Bowl is still the biggest day of the year, the biggest single day of the year that we have. So what we've done the last couple of years is like after the Super Bowl gets finished from one year, we put up the AFC, NFC, like a lot of other properties, immediately after that game is over. But what we did the last couple of years having fun with it is because it's such a hot topic. We put up, will there be a safety in next year's game? Will there be a made 2-point conversion? Will it be heads or tails, the coin flip of the game? And it's amazing. We wrote about $4,000 worth of will there be a successful 2-point conversion. We wrote about $5,000, all small bets on whether it be heads or tails. So you can see the interest in, we're not allowed to call it a Super Bowl, we're allowed to call it a championship game. So it just shows you the uniqueness of a prop when it's connected to something that's so, in a sense, popular to the rest of the world. The Ohio State prop, for the past 10 years, every time you get to July and August, all the talk is SEC, SEC, SEC. So I decided, well, Ohio State surely stopped a lot of that talk last year. So I said, let me put a prop up to see if Ohio State can win the entire 15 games and win the back-to-back national championships. Put it up, you could have taken 10-1 when we first did it. And, we had some very, very good action at plus 10-1, plus 9-1, and plus 8-1. And I think there was a little bit of value there with the people who did that, but now we're down to 5-1, and it's just a little back and forth. All small tickets on Ohio State, but the value hunters got they got the good tickets at plus 10 to 1 and plus 9 to 1. But as I said, when you do these things, it's a dual purpose. You want to create a little bit of action, and we surely have garnered plenty of publicity, especially from some of the papers around Columbus, Ohio, saying, how does this work? And, well, tell me about my team going undefeated. So anymore, there's just as much publicity involved with these kind of things as opposed to, like, booking it.
Very good.
Okay.
At the South Point, how often do you attempt to balance your books on each particular game, and how often do you actually take a position?
And which do you prefer?
Or can you tell us that on the air?
Well, it's a myth trying to balance every game. First of all, you can't get a balanced game if people don't want to bet on the other side. Let's say let's go for the Thursday night game with the Steelers and the Patriots. If everybody keeps betting the Patriots, all we do is adjust the line. But if, no one's got their arm bent, take the Steelers. So it's an unbalanced wager, but we feel that I feel that I'd rather have more money bet on a game as opposed to taking a balanced game. Now, sometimes it happens just because there is two-way action. You get a lot of that with the general public going against what you would consider the wise guys, if you want to utilize that name, where they like the dog, the wise guys like the dog, and the general public like the favorite. So there are some instances where, yes, it just balances out, where you look down and say, well, we're going to juice up a couple dollars here no matter who wins. But that happens maybe 40% of the time. The other 60% of the time is like you have a side going for you. And the strength that we have, because people are laying 11 to 10. Remember, we only have to win like 47 games out of 100 to show a profit, because the 11 to 10 is so strong for us. So it's not that like we forcefully try to get a balanced action on the game. We just let the number play out the way it happens, and naturally to try to incur some business on the other side, if you're top-heavy, you have to adjust the number. But just because you adjust the number, that doesn't mean you're going to get a buyback on the other side. So it's there. Sometimes it just works out as balanced action. But as a bookmaker side of it, and we have the 11 to 10 going for us, I would like to have a decision on most of these games, because all I tell you is what I said before. We only have to win 47% to show a small profit. If we go 50-50, it's a very, very good day for us. So that's the way that I do it, and that's the way most of the bookmakers do.
Okay. Years ago, Jerry Rice, arguably the best receiver all-time in the NFL, he claimed to use stickum on his hands.
Right.
Now, receivers wear gloves, and the gloves have a sort of built-in stickum. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. for the Giants last year had a very famous three-fingered catch that wouldn't have been possible if he didn't have these stickum kind of gloves on. Okay. For entertainment value, fans want to see these catches made. A case could be made that such gloves ruin the integrity of the game. Now, what do you think the NFL is going to do? Are they going to outlaw the gloves, or are they going to say, go for it?
They're going to give the old Lester Hayes, he started to stick him way back in the 70s as a defensive player for the Oakland Raiders. The NFL will not take that away, because it does create more action and more great acrobatic catches. And the thing why they won't take it away is because there's no ban on it. In other words, anybody can use it, so there's no advantage to one team over the other, because you can use it. If Beckham uses it, and the guy from Buffalo, he's allowed to use it. So once again, it's an even playing field there. Everybody can use it, and I don't believe that they'll take it away.
So we had a question from one of our listeners who wanted me to ask you about a famous dinner involving Alan Boston at Hugo's Cellar before the 2000 NCAA basketball tournament. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Alan obviously is a unique person. If anybody hasn't met him, you should take a day out of your life, because you will enjoy it. You might walk away a little bit dizzy, but you'll surely enjoy the conversation. He's as up to date as anybody I've ever met or seen in my bookmaking career here, who is as in depth when talking about college basketball. So there used to be a time when we'd get together before the NCAA started, and Hugo's is one of those little great secrets about Las Vegas dining there. But we haven't done that in a while. But it was fun. Alan picked up the check, which even made it better. So, like I said, Alan's a unique type of person. At times, like you look at him and he's on a different, we're on Earth and he's on Jupiter. But he makes it very, very interesting. And I consider Alan a friend, but I haven't seen him in about a year. But I know he's out there and he's still playing pretty strong.
Yeah, actually, we should try to get him on as a guest.
Good idea.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, I can tell you that.
Back years ago, it's reputed that you took a $2.4 million bet in Super Bowl 29 when you were at the Mirage.
Right.
That sounds like a big bet. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, that's it's been well chronicled over the years. That was made by Carl Icahn, who obviously has enough money to do what he wants to do. And Carl, what I would call an event player. Carl would make 5 or 6 bets a year, usually at the Mirage because we put him on for such high, big numbers. He loved to bet huge favorites and lay the money line. In other words, he would lay 800,000 to win 100,000 on a team that was like a 13 or 14 point favorite. When he called, I remember the phone call. He was in to New York, and I kept telling him, Carl, don't tell me who you want. Don't tell me I can't talk about point spreads. We're talking about, Nevada to New York. He said, but I said, Carl, when you come out, right in front of me, we'll take care of it for you. So he actually came out with his 2 sons, and it was the week before the Super Bowl had started, and it was the infamous 49ers where they beat up the Chargers. And he wanted to bet $2.4 million on the money line, and he did. But I remember Carl telling me at the end, he said, Jimmy, I don't want anybody to know about this bet. I said, Carl, I'm not going to tell anybody. And here it is the next day I picked up the Las Vegas Sun. It was a big article. I think it was written by Stephen Nova. I'm not 100% sure. And Carl was talking about the bet that he made at the Mirage. Well, what had happened, when he did come out, he liked to play poker with all the big guys, Stewie Younger, Chip Reeves, Doyle Brunson. I guess just the idea of like playing with those guys that intrigued him. And he told them about the bet. Well, they told somebody else before I know it was in the paper the next day. So when I saw him the next day, he said, I just had to tell somebody. So he told me to keep quiet, but you obviously you didn't. But in that game, if you remember, I remember Carl making the bet. He says, what do you think? I said, well, you want to bet more? He jokingly, but I was serious because that was the year when the Chargers were in it, and everybody that lived in San Diego drove up here and bet not on the point plus 19 points. They bet him on the money line. They wanted this team to win the game. So actually, I made money by Carl winning money because there were just so many people who drove up and bet on San Diego. So it was fun. He's a unique character, make no doubt about it. And obviously, he has a lot of money and he knows what the hell he's doing.
Interesting. We've been talking to Jimmy Vaccaro, who's works a sports book at the South Point. Thank you very much, Jimmy. We hope to be talking to you again soon. It's been a pleasure to have you.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All righty.
Thanks.
At the South Point, there's more than 10,000 games returning more than 99%. This is more than anybody else has. Every Thursday in September, they're going to have a drawing at 8:15 p.m. where 25 people will spin a big wheel in the showroom. On this wheel are 20 positions. The 10 worst positions only give you $1,000. 8 positions are for $5,000, and there's one each for $10,000 and $25,000. This means half the time you win $5,000 or more, and the average win is about $4,300. To earn tickets, you play. Video poker players earn 1 virtual ticket per dollar coin in, up to a maximum of 1,600 tickets per day. Slot players have the same maximum, but they earn tickets at 3 times the rate. On Thursdays, you may earn the 1,600 tickets before the drawing and an additional 1,600 tickets after the drawing for next week's drawing. And now it's a low roller event with the 1,600 tickets a day, but still, a lot of the players there don't play that much. And if you can be there every day, they have 25 winners, giving away over $100,000 a week. it's worthwhile. Even though it's low roller event, I personally will be playing 1,600 coin in on both my card and Bonnie's card. You're allowed to play on your spouse's card at the South Point, although if she wins the drawing, she has to be there. I can't collect that for her. There's going to be double points on Labor Day, this coming Monday, midnight to midnight, no limits. The new semester of free video poker classes will begin in 2.5 weeks on Wednesday afternoon, beginning at noon, starting September 16th. It's in the Grandview Lounge, and the entire schedule may be found on bobdancer.com. At the Palms, they have their standard 7 p.m. drawing every Friday night. Each week, the winners share $10,000. You do not need to be there to win. You need to claim your prize by midnight. Multiple entries Friday afternoon and Friday evening. There's going to be double points on Labor Day. Midnight to midnight, no limit. And single points for this will apply towards the play for prizes, which on that particular time will be Costco cards. So this means double points is the 0.25 times 2, so that's a 0.5%, plus an extra 0.20 for Costco cards. If you treat them as worth face value, that's 0.70 slot club benefit on that day. You may earn up to $75,000 coin in for the slot club for each week, each day, Monday through Friday, for a 2-week period. So that means if you play more than $750,000 that day, you're going to no longer get the Costco cards. But I don't think that's going to be a limit for very many people. The play for prizes for the first week in September, so ending September 4th, is free play. Now, this is my favorite gift. I would rather have free play than cash. Since I'm going to be playing there anyway, you download it at the machines and you receive full slot club points when you're playing off the free play. For the next 2 weeks, September 7th through 18th, you're in Costco gift cards. The 2 weeks following that, fresh and easy gift cards. The maximum amounts slightly vary from week to week, but it's usually in the 175 to 190 gift cards per day, and you may keep those points up until the end of that particular gift card. So if you have too many gift card points on a Thursday, you can come back Friday and redeem them then. But on the last Friday, all the excess points you have evaporate. Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most games. It's a good place to practice quick quads, for example. And if you want to play quick quads, they have games of the week, and this week it's 50 play with quick quads. Quick quads is a 6-point per line game where 3 of a kind accompanied by 2 other cards that up to the rank of the 3 of a kind is a quick quad, paying you the same as a regular 4 of a kind. That is 99954 pays the same as 4 9s, or 44422 pays the same as 4 4s. For the promotion this month at the South Point, quick quads will be my game of choice. And I'll be teaching a class in the double-double bonus version of quick quads on September 30th. All right. Next week, we are going to be talking to sports handicapper Steve Fezzik. Steve won the Hilton Super Bowl football contest 2 in a row, won several other handicapping contests. We're going to be asking him many of the same questions that we put to Jimmy Vaccaro today, only Steve will be answering them more from the player's perspective of how do you gain an edge. So that will be our show for next week. All right. I am currently out of the studio. So, Richard, I have no idea how much time we have left.
Oh, we've got about 4 minutes.
Uh-huh. So, let's go back to, let's talk a little bit about what Jeffrey said today. He's thinking it's not there's 3 properties that are either sold, closed, or not closed. And he said he doesn't see that as a trend. He just sees that as 3 properties with their own unique set of problems. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think generally, I think things are looking good pardon me, looking good downtown. New restaurants and stuff happening down there. So, yeah, I think the Grand is kind of a specific case. The Las Vegas Club, as he said, it was kind of neglect. The redheaded stepchild. I think the right person could make that a really good property. I mean, it's a good location. It's one of the oldest casinos in Las Vegas. So, I think things are looking up down there. But the SLS, boy, they just have problems that I don't see how to solve.
And I don't know that they had the right management. The last Scott Krieger presided over a bankruptcy at the Ravel, so he may be a good manager for.
Well, how did that turn out, right? I mean,
exactly. and that had its own unique problems, but there's a different kind of management that's required for maintaining a casino that is basically going well and doing whatever it takes to make a casino work when there are really, really significant problems. So that's a tough job. I don't envy him.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot. But, I think it should be good for us. If it goes under and sells, well, then we get a new owner. And, generally, I think that's good when ownership of casinos changes. Because in the beginning, they're trying to do things to attract people, and often there's, a way to make some money.
Yes, when the SLS opened, that was my best day of last year. That was... one data point doesn't make a trend by any means, but it was good for me.
Right. Well, but if you look at that one data point instead of what you won, if you look at it as the EV you generated, it was probably still your best day of the year, right?
Not my best day, but not my best day EV wise, but it was still 15 or 20,000 in EV. For that one,
that's a pretty good day
play that I made, which is pretty good. I wish there were more days like that.
Right. All right. Well, let me just go to our. We welcome your questions. We encourage your questions. It always makes the show better. So you can send them to us at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com. Or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/gamblingwithanedge, or you can tweet them at me at RWM21. If you want the show delivered while you sleep, you can sign up and get that sent to you. You can do that at iTunes or Stitcher or at my site, richardmunchkin.com. And to see an archive of all of the old shows, you can find that at bobdancer.com. So, Bob, why don't you take us out? Are you still there, Bob?
I am still there. My speaker just went a little bit dumb. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Jeffrey Compton. Thank you, Jimmy Vaccaro. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.
You've been listening to Gambling with an Edge with your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin. Subscribe to the show in iTunes, and episodes will be delivered to you automatically every week. Archived versions of past shows may be found at bobdancer.com and richardmunchkin.com. We welcome emails at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com. Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin are both available on Facebook and welcome your questions. The sponsors for the show are the South Point Hotel, Casino and Spa, the M Resort, the Palms Casino Resort, and the website videopoker.com. Join us again next week for another Gambling with an Edge.